advanced level of engineering of all the different kinds. Ramos was only a civil engineer, which is much easier to do because you can see the land. But there was this engineer who died and went to heaven. And God said, I've been expecting you. You know, I'm God. I know when these things are going to happen. You're very welcome in heaven because we've got lots of engineers here. But we have a small problem. And heaven's full. So I've got nowhere to put you. The engineers are rushing to expand, but in the meantime, I don't know what to do. So I talked to the devil, and he said, a special dispensation, you can spend your time down there. So with great trepidation, the engineer went to hell. The devil said, yeah, God told me about you. Go in, you don't have to suffer like everybody else. Just fill in your time however you like. Well, this is hell, you know, fire and brimstone, torture racks, the whole stuff, you know, people suffering. He's got nothing to do. Half the stuff doesn't work properly. It's hell, right? So he cleans the burners, he adjusts the torture racks, he gets things working. It's like any good engineer does. Eventually God calls down and says, okay, we've finished the expansion. You can send the engineer up now. The devil said, no. God said, what do you mean, no? The devil said, get this is the first engineer we've ever had in hell. And he's doing a fabulous job. It's not finished, so we're keeping him. God said, no, we've got an agreement. You send him up. The devil said, no, I won't. God said, if you don't send him up, I'll sue you. The devil said, how? All the lawyers are down here. That's not a joke, it's a true story. Where are we today? We're way behind. For the last 20 years, we've been spending 2.5% of GDP on infrastructure. The rest of Asia has been spending double that. And it shows. And you certainly notice it if you ever try and drive down out of Edison. So we've spent 2.5%, and we haven't had inclusive growth because we haven't had the infrastructure to bring in investment to create jobs for people to be able to have jobs and to get around. This year's budget, 5% of GDP. Future years is to go up to 7%. So we're doubling it already under the 13. And it will go even more. Plus PPP. Where do we stand as far as this is concerned? It's a dismal story. Quality of our infrastructure, we're 106 out of 140 countries. You can't get much worse than that. Look at the other countries. Malaysia, 16. Even Vietnam, which is still only really beginning to get into the whole investment code, the whole investment area, is better than us. Quality of our roads, we're the worst. Quality of our railroad system, we're the worst. Quality of port, not only are we the worst, we're by far the worst. And yet, we in Indonesia are the only two archipelagos that are all islands, where the most important way of travel should be by sea. I wouldn't go on a Philippine ship if it was the last thing they did. I'm a sailor. I was Commodore of the Yacht Club at one point. And I know shipping and I know the marine industry very well, maritime industry. I wouldn't get on a Philippine ship. They're just not safe. And the port's under a stress. Air transport, we're the worst. So everything, we're the worst. There's the seaports, 103. Myanmar's worst, but Myanmar's just starting to get off. And Laos, of course, is very small. Next. What about as an investment site? This is a survey I did of my clients. I have about 110 multinationals and major Philippine companies as my clients. And we did a survey of them. What are the worst features of the Philippines as an investment site? Poor infrastructure ranks number 3. What about Duterte? What's he planning? He's got a 10-point economic plan. And it's been well thought through, well put together. We worked on that down in Davao before he came into power, and it was agreed on the different aspects, different points of it, and his economic team in the cabinet is now working to put it in place. And on it, next, number 4, accelerate annual infrastructure spending. It is one of the top priorities of this president to put in place infrastructure in a much more rapid manner than in the past. Next. We have a very radical president. A president who has been completely misunderstood by the West. misunderstood by the average Filipino. 84% of Filipinos still approve of him, still think he's doing a good job. And if you ask people anecdotally, and I do every day, if I get into a taxi, which is rare, if I go to a restaurant, ask the waiter, the waitress, do you like the president? Yes, sir, I do. What about his killing of the country? Well, no, that's okay. We accept that. Why? Well, that's a long story that I won't go into today because this is not where to talk about it, but I could explain it to you. It is accepted. But we don't have a radical bureaucracy, and we don't have a radical Congress. They haven't listened to the cry of Filipinos, we want change. We don't want the old ways of operating and doing things. So they're still operating the same way. Congress would rather look at the sexual proclivities of some woman than pass an emergency bill to solve our traffic problems. They haven't yet learned that we don't want politicians to be politicians anymore. So then we have the courts, who will issue a TRO at the drop of a hat. And so everything comes to a halt. Projects get delayed a year, 2, 3 years because court issues a TRO. Why? Because the loser doesn't accept loss and therefore takes it to court, gets it delayed and creates problems for us. And the courts haven't learned either. We want to accelerate a change. We want to accelerate things getting happening. So it does look brighter. On the GDP side, we're looking at least 6.5%, possibly 7% this year. In future years, we'll be aiming for 7 to 8%. And I believe if the President works hard at it, this is a very possible growth rate to achieve. Around $860 billion is to be spent on infrastructure, rising to over $1 trillion. There's a lot of money going into infrastructure. There's a lot of opportunity for you people here today. As Ben Diokno says, golden age of infrastructure. I say a steel age will do because we use steel, not gold, to build roads and bridges, I think, as I recall my little bit of mechanical engineering. We've had almost no action in the last administration. We're now, I believe, going to see quite a lot of action. Already, we've seen a dozen PPP projects. In the last administration, only 15. In 6 years, in 6 months, we've done 12. And there are about 50 or so listed to be looked at, to be taken forward. The other thing I like particularly is PPP now allows unsolicited projects. The previous government would not. An unsolicited project is a very good way to get things going because it means, the government can't think of everything. You see an idea, you see something worth doing, you can take it to government, propose it. If they accept it, you have some priority in bidding for it to get that project. The other thing I particularly like is this absurdity of a premium. The last administration, they gave the bid to whoever offered the highest cash payout to the government to get the expressway. No. I want a lower fee. I want someone who gives me the lowest toll to pay, not give some cash to the bloody government. It'll probably be stolen anyway. So give me a lower fee when I go on the toll. That's what this government will do. People like Ben Diokno recognise that very well. We also have an infrastructure monitoring group now that makes sure that whoever is building it is doing it on time, is doing it correctly, is meeting all the requirements of the project. The other thing I like, 24/7, working now 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, not 9 to 5. So any major project has to be full-time on construction. Next. Rights of way. This has been another problem. Until last year, it was on assessed value by the government. That was less than market value. So of course no one wanted to give up their land. Well, a law was passed to make it market value. I have been recommending for some time, so far without any success, it should be 1.5 times market value. It's cheap. As it now stands, rights of way, resistance by owners of land where you need to put a road or whatever, takes years to resolve through the courts. So pay 1.5. Who's going to complain? anyone will give up their house or factory for 1.5 times what it's worth on a market value. So I think we need to promote that much more actively. Freedom of information on all infrastructure projects. As you know, the FOI bill was never passed by the last administration. Duterte has submitted to Congress a request for an FOI bill. Congress has taken its time, so he issued an executive order to make the FOI available in all government departments and now also on all projects. So if you want to check on how a particular road or whatever is going, how well it's being done, what it's costing, whatever you want to know about it, you can access that to do it. An overall traffic czar, that's in the Emergency Powers Bill. They're now calling it in the House, I forget, it was in the paper today, so I think they're giving it a different name, but basically much the same thing, and agreeing that we do need the traffic czar overall in charge of Metro Manila. So now stands, you've got 17 different mayors, all looking after different parts of EDSA, for example, and it's a mess. You've got to have one person in charge of the whole thing. That will happen. But it's taking time. Just before Christmas, Congress passed a law, or passed a bill, that would change the syntax law in 2 weeks. No bill has ever, in the whole history of the Philippines, been passed in 2 weeks until this one. Not the emergency bill, which is important, but a syntax change which is not even wanted. You have to ask why. Read my column next week, you'll find out why. Next. Cutting evaluation time from 2 to 3 years, sometimes 5 or more, down to only 18 to 20 months, and hopefully that's realistic. Hopefully less than that as time goes by. Revising PPP to be simpler, to be faster, to make it more apparent, more clear what you have to do to apply. And giving more powers, this is a bill that's in Congress now, to the PPP Centre. And this is very good. Next. This gets me, right? 25 years, we can't even decide where, let alone build it, we can't decide where to even put it. Well, you can't rush a decision, right? One must think things through carefully. But 25 years, I mean, it's so embarrassing, it's just almost unbelievable, right? As I say here, Cambodia, which is hardly a real competitor to us, can do it in 4. Decide where and build it in 4 years. So one would hope that we're going to get a little bit faster now. Some of the things that are being done, North-South Rail, that has been approved, but it hasn't included cargo. And yet I think this is probably the most important part of that rail system. Getting containers out of a port is much more efficiently done by a train than it is a truck. Right? We used to have the Bicol Express. We've got to revive the Bicol Express, but we've got to have it take the cargo as well as passengers. So that's something that will happen. The SLEX, NLEX connector is being built, but it needs to be built much quicker. And there's a second one to be built later on. We need another bridge across Guadalupe. Very important. It's held up at the moment because of ROW, because residents on the other side of the river don't want to give up their properties. But I'm suggesting using a Bailey Bridge. For you youngsters who don't know much about it, Bailey Bridges were invented by a man called Engineer Bailey, an Englishman in the Second World War, and what they basically are is a modularly constructed steel bridge. It's built in a factory in modules, shipped across to the river, and assembled by the military engineers quickly across the river before they can be bombed out by the planes. Or we don't have the bombs. But if you do it in a factory, you can do it much quicker, more efficiently, less disruption, take the whole thing over and put it up. Right? It's temporary, but temporary can be 10, 20 years. Sydney Harbour Bridge has been there now for, I think, 80 years or something. It's made of steel. No rust. Perfect condition. Just like every bridge in the Philippines, of course. Why? Yeah, I'll tell you a story about that. That was funny. You know, I have a house in Caliraya, and some years ago, the bridge, steel bridge, across the river at Pakistan, the Lumban, was collapsing because it had rusted, because no one had ever painted it. So I talked to Ping de Jesus, who was the secretary at the time, and within weeks, they closed down the bridge and tore it down. We had to take a barge over for about 12 months, and then there was a concrete bridge. Finished, all done. Concrete doesn't rust, so it's still there. But the Sydney Harbour Bridge is painted every year. They go across and paint it, finish at the end of the year, go back and paint it again. Paint stops rust. It's easy. So that hasn't been done. So we need, I reckon, a Bailey Bridge because it can be put up in a few months rather than several years, and we need it urgently. MRT, as you saw in the papers, they finally agreed on a common station after the arguments between two of the moguls of this country as to whether it should be in their shopping mall or their shopping mall. No, we'll put it somewhere in the middle. Finally, we get a compromise, right? That might work, yeah? MRT3, what a mess. MRT3 was fine until government took over, and then it collapsed completely. Now it's going to be put back together, but it will take time. But having MRT working well, working efficiently, having a lot more trains would take some pressure off EDSA. Very important to do. I believe that we will see that happening. Next. Air traffic. We need a third runway. It's being considered. If you take general aviation out, general aviation is basically the elite who own their own private planes. If you take them out and put them singly, you can actually increase traffic movement of commercial jets by 18 to 20%. Right? The commercial jet has 200 or 300 passengers. The private plane has 4 or 5. It's pretty obvious what you have to do. It's pretty obvious it's a political problem to be overcome because you're dealing with some powerful people. So we have to wait to see if that's going to happen. But certainly it would help a lot if it does. Definitely need to develop other airports rather than Nair and have to decide where to put another Nair. Clark-Manila Railway, I think, makes good sense. I am very keen on the idea of moving Manila to Clark-Subic. We need to move the capital of this country away from where we are today. 50 years from now, Manila will be underwater. And believe me, Manila will never be a Venice. So we're constrained. We've got Manila Harbour on one side, we've got Laguna Bay on the other. It's an hourglass. We can't expand sideways. We can only expand lengthways, and that's limited. Clark-Subic is a huge area of vacant space where we can build a whole new city. I believe over the next 50 years or so, that should be one of the most important long-term plans of government. The traffic crisis. Emergency powers, I mentioned. They're extending operating hours of the trains, what few of them are running. An integrated tollway system makes a lot of sense. You go from SLEX onto NLEX. If you've got the pass for SLEX, it doesn't work on NLEX. Why not? Pretty easy today in today's modern computer systems. Ferry service would have some impact. The one I like, though, is the bus rapid transit. Bus rapid transit is fully automated buses that operate pretty much like a train, but without the track. So much cheaper, much easier to put in place. It can be done in months rather than years at a fraction of the cost of putting in new train systems. So Arthur Tugadi is very interested in this. He's looking quite closely into putting it in place, and it probably will happen, and I can explain it to you at some point. But bus rapid transit, to me, is the future for cities, and I think that that's what we're going to see here. Next, I think that's it. So since Ramos, too little's been done, now it's a top priority. Duterte, the budget's high, projects identified, public demand certainly full. I see the future as a glass half full. Thank you.